We start with Newcastle, and these three are the managers in contention to replace Steve Bruce at this stage following the sacking of him. Former Roma boss Paulo Fonseca will hold talks with the club this week, but Eddie Howe and Lucien Favre are also contenders. Let's get more on this now with our reporter Keith Downey. Keith, I know it's been a busy afternoon for you, busy few weeks for you and the club's new senior management. What's happened over the last few hours?
Yeah, Tom, it's been a really busy day here at the Newcastle United training ground, where news emerged at 10:30 this morning that Steve Bruce was to be relieved of his duties as manager. Of course, he's been in the hot seat here for just over 2 years, with two decent placed finishes, 12th and 13th over the last two seasons, but this season hasn't started well at all, and Newcastle of course are mired in the bottom three without a win yet this season. The supporters again on Sunday made it clear what they thought towards the end of the match in that 3-2 defeat to Tottenham Hotspur, with the new consortium and the chairman Yasser Al-Rumayyan all looking on from the stands. I think the biggest surprise for most observers, Tom, was that this didn't happen last week. I was stood in this exact spot for the majority of last week, expecting to announce that Steve Bruce had moved on, but he battled through until the weekend and took that match against Tottenham Hotspur, which of course, as we all know, was his 1000th match as a manager, and potentially his last ever game, if you read the statement that he put out later where he said that this could be his last job in management. I think, Tom, that is probably because it's been a really stressful time this year for him at Newcastle United. He knows he's not been a favourite with the fans. He said that in an interview that he's done with the Telegraph this morning. And I think it's been upsetting at times for both him and his family, because he's had to put up with quite a lot of abuse and criticism, and some of that has been personal. With regards to today, as I say, Steve Bruce wasn't here this morning. He learnt of the news last night. But Amanda Staveley, who's heading up the Saudi-backed consortium, was here first thing this morning alongside her husband Mehrdad Ghoussi. They spent around 6 hours here at the training ground before leaving just shortly after 2 o'clock. Our cameras managed to catch a quick glimpse of them as they left. There were a few fans stood here around the entrance to the training ground, and she gave them a quick wave on the way out. The decision had already been made about Steve Bruce's future last night. A short meeting, I understand, was held with the first team squad and the existing backroom staff, that will remain. So the likes of Steve Agnew and Stephen Clements, who are here, Ben Dawson as well, those will work at the weekend under Graham Jones, who will be handed the reins on an interim basis. That is what I thought would have happened last week. They gave Steve Bruce the match against Tottenham Hotspur on Sunday, to which obviously Newcastle lost. But the news now is that Graham Jones will be in interim charge on Saturday, unless there's a quick change before then. But I think Steve Bruce needed this. I think he needed to kind of be put out of his misery. You could see that it was really upsetting him towards the end, and he had a pop at a few of the journalists on Friday as well, which I think just showed how frustrated he was at the situation. So I think for him, he'll probably be relieved it's over. I think he can hold his head up high given the 12th and 13th place finishes he's had in his first two seasons. But I think Steve Bruce knows himself, but this season wasn't going well, and things need to change for Newcastle to try and stay in the Premier League this season.
Yeah, he can be proud of the way he's conducted himself in this very difficult time for him. He's been very dignified indeed. So as you said, Graham Jones will take over in the short term. Tell us about the three names we know of that are in the frame for it long term.
Yeah, well, Paulo Fonseca is the name that has emerged to us at Sky Sports News over the last sort of 12 hours or so. We understand there has been initial explorations with regards to him potentially coming in. We do expect further talks to take place before the weekend. So Paulo Fonseca, the former Roma and Shakhtar Donetsk manager, is one. Of course, he is out of work. You also mentioned Lucien Favre and Eddie Howe at the top of the hour there. I believe both of those are potentially in the running. I think there's probably a couple more, Tom, as well. I don't think it's just down to three. I think the short list isn't really that short, and I think there is quite a lot of work to be done to get a manager in by whether it's Crystal Palace at the weekend. They have said Graham Jones will take charge. Obviously things can change quickly, but probably more likely the Chelsea game the weekend after that. So I think there's a lot of work for the consortium to do. You've got to remember there's a lot of people involved in the consortium. They've said from the word go they want to do this properly, they want to do it slowly, gradually, they want to make sure they make the right decisions, and they'll know that the first manager who comes in and takes over in the hot seat here has a very, very big job, a big task. They'll be tasked with bringing in players in the January transfer window, and obviously players in the hope that can keep Newcastle United in the division, because it has been a poor start. They'll need to make a very quick turnaround. So those three names, I understand, are all under consideration. There probably are a couple more as well. I think Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard are two names that have been mused as well in the background. As to how far down the line we are with any of those, I'm not exactly sure, but I would have to say if you were to pick any of those right now as one that I would say is a potential favourite at this stage, it would probably be Fonseca.
Keith, I've been looking at the calendar, and you can have a day off in June. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.